UFC here. It is Saturday, October the 18th. Now, I want to talk about predictive programming. I know I've talked about it a lot on this channel, but I know I'll talk about it a lot more probably in the future. But really, dealing with Ebola is quite important because there is a plethora of predictive programming, whether it be movies, music, books, any type of entertainment, television, of course. It's all over the place. So wanted to do a video here where I kind of push this all together and show you in a great big pile all the things that they've been predicting through their predictive programming. Now, those of you who don't know what predictive programming is, it's basically the powers that be want to tell us what they're going to do to us. They don't come right out and say it, but they show it to us in all different ways, shapes, and forms, all throughout their tentacles, whether it be Hollywood, the music industry, you know, television, magazines, books, everything. So that's what they do. And there's two reasons why they do it, really. There's the first reason, which is they kind of want to be able to tell us in advance what they're going to do. It alleviates some of their guilt. And the second and more important reason is the one I'm going to be looking into heavily today, and that is to condition you to accept what is going to happen, to keep you, get you ready for it, get you prepared, right? Prepare, like the kids at the Super Bowl. So going back in time, probably the first movie that really covered some sort of hemorrhagic fever type outbreak, deadly outbreak, was the Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton. It's a book that was done. The movie came out in 1971, very sort of tense, more of a dry sort of science fiction, in which a military satellite that's in space to collect microorganisms in order to create some sort of bioweapon comes back to Earth and brings with it this microorganism that makes people's their insides turn into jelly basically and go crazy. So that's going way back. Now, coming a bit closer here, this is the episode of The Friends that aired on October the 19th. 1995, and you'll see a lot of green color, and of course you will hear Ebola.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So the Ebola virus, that's gotta suck, huh?
Yeah, the Ebola virus. Gotta suck, eh? Here's a movie from 1996 called The Ebola Syndrome. It's out of Hong Kong. Let's see this. Now, this guy is a cannibal. He's cooked up humans, and he's serving them as burgers because he's infected with Ebola. So he wants to make everyone infected with Ebola. And here's in the future, of course, showing people with Ebola in the hospital, and the people in the full hazmat suits. And this is, right? So he's some kind of sick psychopath who travels to Africa, becomes infected, and becomes a carrier of the disease. Instead of giving the disease, he becomes a carrier of the disease. I think you can see this full movie on YouTube. Monkey, of course. They have to show that. The African tribal village. So he goes there, then he infects a whole bunch of people there, then he flies back to Hong Kong and infects people there and serves people in burgers and stuff like that. Really disturbing stuff. Now, of course, most people will be familiar with this, perhaps, Outbreak, which was a big budget movie that came out in 1995 as well. And it basically was all about Ebola, a hemorrhagic fever coming out of West Africa with the monkey being the carrier that is brought over as an exotic pet and ends up infecting a few people, including an entire town, which they put into a military lockdown, total quarantine. And the general, who just happens to be the good old New World Order actor here, Donald Sutherland, who many may know better from the Hunger Games, but he's a psychopathic general who really wants to nuke the entire town off the face of the earth. So quite a good film, actually. It's a good nail biter, but so much predictive programming here with the monkeys, the virus, just so many things that you would see, you know, very familiar to you. Now, 1997, October the 19th, and I said the dates before. I've already did October the 19th a couple times, or the 19th. It's very important, this date, and it's a couple days away, so we'll see if something, or it's tomorrow actually, right? So we'll see if something happens. But here is from The Simpsons. This is from 1997, and look at this.
Bart, would you like to read a book?
Curious George and the Ebola virus, of course, the green coloring. right? And you know they always have it. The clock hands are at 17 years later from 1997. The date that this was aired was 2014.
No.
There's the clock hands, right? You can see it right there.
Would you like to color something? I did.
There you go. Would you like to color something? This too bears more more of a look to it because I think they're coding something in here. I turned it upside down and saw brood with the arrow. Of course, it says blood the other way. But I think that there might be something coded right up in there, and I urge somebody, maybe Enter the Stars, somebody's really good at that, can take a look at that perhaps. So let's continue. I Am Legend. This is from a news report that I believe the Will Smith character sees at some point.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Still.
So, Dr. Crippen, give it to me in a nutshell.
Well, the premise is quite simple. Take something designed by nature and reprogram it to make it work for the body rather than against it.
You're talking about a virus.
Indeed, yes, in this case, the measles virus, which has been engineered at a genetic level to be helpful rather than harmful. I find the best way to describe it.
Okay, so she's talking about they take the measles virus and they genetically engineer it in order to fight cancer, and then this leads to 99.9% of the population being wiped out, basically, right? Here is Enter the Stars. I'll post a link for this below. He's one of the best at finding these things. He is just amazing at it. So look at this film called 12 Monkeys, which is all about, of course, Ebola outbreak from 1995, and it has predictive programming for November the 19th, which of course is 9/11 backwards.
Now, many of us have seen the various 9/11 references in films before 9/11 happened, but this is one people may have missed. Now, Bruce Willis is moving about in time, and he's trying to figure out how to save the world from a virus, and he shows the doctor this flyer, and of course it's November 19th, which is 11/19, which is 9/11 backwards. There's another example of how he hid the 9/11 information and foreshadowing in all of these films.
Yeah, and what else he finds in this is that you can see Ebola spelled backwards as globe in 12 Monkeys. So this movie is all about the apocalypse and this guy who's trying to travel through time to figure out what happened. So World War Z is another big example, of course, the zombie outbreak, and in that movie, Brad Pitt is able to save himself by injecting himself with some other deadly virus, and that makes the zombies not want to eat him, basically. Contagion is one of the biggest examples that I can give. This is full of Ebola predictive programming. Don't talk to anyone. Don't touch anyone. Kate Winslet, Contagion. And you can see a lot of the green coloring, of course, in this. It's this movie has a ton of predictive programming. They even have the conspiracy theorist who's one of the bad guys here, who's profiteering from selling some sort of natural remedy that doesn't work. The CDC coming through with the cure for the virus in the end, right? And then, of course, everyone being braceleted at the end. Everyone who receives the vaccination gets a bracelet. Well, I would think that we're probably going to get a RFID chip instead, but I think there's a whole ton of predictive programming. And this is basically the exact same thing as Ebola, the virus that breaks out, hemorrhagic fever. So once again, now we've got this show called The Strain. Press Reset has done a lot of work on this, or at least he's talked a lot about it. I don't know if he's done a video on it. I think he will once this season's over. But yeah, again, a viral outbreak, and the only people that survive are on some plane or something, right? And of course, the people that get infected turn into zombies. Where have we seen that before? How about here off of Prometheus? This has been banned from YouTube, but I'll just play a quick clip.
To lose Dr. Holloway after your father died under such similar circumstances. What was it that killed him? Ebola.
There you go, Ebola, right? This is how they do it, folks. They put it in the movies. How about Planet of the Apes? This is just from the opening sequence, I believe, of the movie here. And this one has been blocked as well. I think it's Enter the Stars again, yeah.
Hey guys, Enter the Stars.
Let me put it forward here, just to show you.
The source of the virus was traced back to drug testing done at Genesis Laboratories in San Francisco.
Right, and Red Pill Revolution's doing all the awesome work, right, on the pharmaceutical companies. Sound very similar. GlaxoSmithKline, for instance.
A lab technician now known as Patient Zero was accidentally exposed to retrovirus ALZ-113, an Alzheimer's trial drug that was being tested on chimpanzees.
The infected chimps showed signs of erratic and aggressive behavior that led to their escape from the facility.
The now famous incident on the Golden Gate Bridge.
So monkeys, chimps, once again, the disease is spreading everywhere. It's spreading by planes. Planes is a huge part of all this. They are always showing you in all these movies like Contagion how the planes will carry the virus from place to place. Another show a lot of people have been talking about is this show called Utopia, which is about a future. It's Great Britain, I believe, and 90% of the world's population has been wiped out by a hemorrhagic type fever virus that has gone rampant. The Walking Dead, of course, the fourth season here featured the Ebola zombie. Yes, if you remember, the first kind of zombie that you see was a harbinger of what was to come here. They had this guy here, and Rick, of course, was gardening at this point, and he really took a good look at this zombie because this zombie didn't look like any of the other zombies. It was bleeding from its eyeballs. It looked particularly nasty, and then next thing you know, there's a huge viral outbreak that happens within the compound, which is their prison, which they use to protect themselves from the zombie apocalypse, of course, which is a virus that outbreaks and turns people into zombies. How about the Big Bang here, folks? Listen in.
Thanks again for doing this, Bernadette.
Oh, I take facts very seriously. One time at my lab, a petri dish of genetically modified supervirus went missing. That day we made a pinky swear never to admit we crossed Ebola with the common cold.
Why the hell would you cross Ebola with the common cold?
We never did. That would be a terrible, terrible thing.
Why the hell would you cross Ebola with the common cold?
We never did. That would be a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah, it's pretty evil the way they do it, because here, of course, they're joking about that they've mixed Ebola with the common cold, and of course that would be pretty devastating, right? Because colds are airborne, are they not, right? You sneeze, you can catch a cold from somebody on a train or a bus or whatever. Well, yeah, wouldn't you know it, the flu season's coming, and this has just been, this episode came out in 2010, originally aired I believe it's October the 21st, 2010 here, again. So, this is total predictive programming. Ebola mentioned over and over and over again in shows to get you ready. Here's another one that they mentioned it, of course, Breaking Bad, which I've already shown, and this came out right around the same time.
Adam, when we say it's contamination, I mean, I'm thinking like an Ebola leak or something.
Ebola?
Yeah, it's a disease on the Discovery Channel where all your intestines sort of just slip right out of your butt.
Thank you. I know what Ebola is. Now tell me, what would a West African virus be doing in our lab?
So there you go. I mean, the fact that they spend about a good 30 seconds talking about Ebola in this episode, because the episode is about a fly that gets into their laboratory here for making crystal meth, and they're afraid about a contamination, and of course that leads to Ebola, right? And then I have to explain what it is, your guts fall out and all that, right? And then this guy has to take it even a step further, saying, well, why would a West African virus be doing here? And of course I know about Ebola, and who doesn't know about Ebola, right? You have to know about it because they're trying to program. And that's why the most popular shows always have the most predictive programming, without a doubt. Here's a recent commercial from Halloween Horror Nights, right, which was published on September the 2nd, 2010. It takes place in an airport, and guess what comes off the plane?
Flight 919 from Atlanta has just arrived in
From Atlanta, right? So the flight has arrived from Atlanta, right? And Atlanta, of course, is where the CDC is. It's also where The Walking Dead is. It's also where the Georgia Guidestones are. And This plane just happens to come from it, and guess what comes off the plane? The green coloring, always in this. Tons of green. There's the zombies. Right? The zombies are coming. It's everywhere, the zombies. How about South Park? The exact same thing, where they had an episode. This is the Vigilant Christian here. I'll post a link for this below. Showing the, of course, South Park going on about, you guessed it, Ebola. Whoop. Sorry.
Died in Vice Robin Williams. Coincidence going on in the world here. South Park airing an episode called Gluten-Free Ebola.
Gluten-free
Ebola. The same very
Ebola?
week that Ebola is confirmed in the United States in Dallas, Texas. Do you think this is coincidence? People, you need to start waking up. So now let's examine this episode here. Now, what happens with predictive programming is the Illuminati need to hide their plans in plain sight in front of people, but in a way that they don't think that they're being programmed. So they'll do it through cartoons, movies, commercials, whatever, so that the unsuspecting person becomes a victim of the mind control. So what they're doing with the Ebola virus is they're programming the masses in preparation for the massive quarantines, FEMA camps, and depopulation that is going to occur. Now, in the episode you're going to see tonight is the symbolism of the infection. Here you have symbolized the United States, and they are infected. Now, there is a lot of Illuminati symbolism in this episode.
So I'll leave the link for this below. I mean, what we're trying to show here is how they're constantly doing this stuff. They're constantly putting it in our faces. They're always showing us what's going to happen in the future, and they like to tease us with it. So this is just a handful of examples that I could put together. I know there's so many more out there, and if you know of more, leave them all below in the comments, and maybe I'll make another part to this series and show the updated predictive programming, because no doubt there's going to be a ton of it, and it's good for those who are following popular culture to try to catch these things, because there's no doubt that they're coding them to us. Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe to the channel and have a wonderful day.